Considering doing a grand gesture for your ex for Valentine's Day? Hey, it's Shana, just a human from Los Angeles, here to help you pick up the pieces from your breakup. Today is Valentine's Day, and if there is a day for grand gestures, today is certainly that day. But the question is, do grand gestures work? Should you put forth the tremendous time and effort and emotion required to make one of these gestures fly and recreate sparks and romance with your ex? If you want to listen to the experts, the evidence says no, at least most of the time. But ask yourself this: would a grand gesture work on you? As a hopeless romantic myself, I could honestly say that at least 99 times out of 100, they would work for me. But keep in mind, I'm also someone who always gives sincere people the benefit of the doubt, and I'm always open to authentic actions, no matter how small or grand. If you're thinking about doing a grand gesture, then you are living proof that grand gestures can work. The fact that you're considering doing one and that you imagine magic coming from it means that it would most certainly work on you and for every other romantic person who's thinking the same. And there are a lot of romantic people thinking the same. Otherwise, all the experts would not be talking about grand gestures. So there's that. Now, is it actually going to work? First thing you have to ask yourself, I think, is how open is your ex's heart to you? Now, this is something you may or may not know. You may have been in contact with them. Maybe you're in loose contact, texting back and forth. You know for a fact that they're open. Or you might be a no contact and you really don't know anything, and all you can do is go on your best guess. Also, how romantic is your partner? If your partner is someone who cries at romantic comedies, or every time that John Cusack holds up the boombox, that's probably someone who's going to be more likely to positively respond to your grand gesture and maybe swoon and melt. How much space and time has actually been given to them since the breakup? Especially if it was sort of a bad breakup. Have they had the space? Have they had the time to have their heart mend, to have their mind come back to a space where it is more neutral? Because in that space, they're going to be thinking more about the positive memories than they will about the negatives. But if the wound is still very raw and you're the one who broke up with them, or even quite honestly, if they broke up with you and they have very strong emotions about it and it's very recent, it may be that a grand gesture really sort of falls on deaf ears. So you got to keep that in mind. How much, honestly, do they miss you? Now, keep in mind, when I say how much they miss you, I don't mean how much do you miss them, right? Because those two things can sometimes be sort of muddled in your mind. And if you are willing to put yourself out for this grand gesture with the full expectation that everything is going to work out perfectly, the next question is, have you put in the thought and the effort required to make yourself a better partner? Because if you just take who you've always been and add it back to who they've always been, the chances of you getting a different positive outcome from the relationship are probably pretty low. But if you feel like you've honestly done the work on yourself, if you honestly have thought long and hard about whether you want this person back, and you have thought long and hard of the perfect grand gesture, Make sure that you are acting from sincerity, from authenticity, not from desperation or from emotional distress, because that will reek of desperation and emotional distress, which isn't usually the most attractive qualities in a human. So when you come back, you got to make sure that you're presenting the very best of who you are and a person that your ex would want to re-explore a relationship with. But most importantly, perhaps for your own sake, if you do decide to go through with the grand gesture, be ready for any response. It may be positive. It may be very positive, and it may be the beginning of a newly ignited relationship. You get married, you are happily ever after, you ride off into the sunset. I hope that's exactly what happens for you. But go in knowing that their response, realistically speaking, might also be negative. They might even be with another partner, or they may not respond at all. All of those things can be really painful. So you have to go into this knowing that any of these outcomes, really any outcome at all, is possible. And if you think that you can handle the positive, the negative, and the indifferent, and you feel it so deeply in your heart, a grand gesture, especially on Valentine's Day, can be extremely potent. Just make sure that you're emotionally ready for anything that comes back. Personally, I hope that what comes back is love. Please tell me in the comments below if it is, and I'd love to hear about the gesture as well. Happy Valentine's Day, whether it's you with yourself, you with your ex, you with a new partner. Just remember, always hold on to the love, because the love is always there within you.